Hello, and welcome to the Weekly Scroll Podcast. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Char Aznable.
And today we're joined by a couple of very special guests. We have Charlotte and Binary here today. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Pretty well. Yeah, good. Thanks for coming on the show. Stoked to have you.
Of course. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah. And for those out there who might not know who either of you are, who the heck are you? Let's start with Charlotte.
I do data entry for my uncle. That's who I am.
Cool, yeah. Cool.
And what might people have known you from with your previous works?
I've made Daisy Chainsaw and Rose Thorn Keep and Celestial Bodies.
Chainsaw. Excited for that. And people tomorrow might be excited for it as well, for some reason. And Binary Star Games, how are you, and what might people know you from?
Well, I'm Binary Star, he, him. That's my real name. You might know me from running Binary Star Games, as mentioned. Specifically, you might know Apocalypse Frame. You might know Valiant Horizon. Most recently, I put out Corpse Layers. I put all that shit. I don't know. I guess I made Celestial Bodies too. I guess that counts.
You're like the backbone of Celestial Bodies.
Yeah. And Celestial Bodies. Yeah, we're going to get to Celestial Bodies because obviously that's kind of the main reason why we're here. It's why there's a logo next to my head that you guys can't see. But that kind of went crazy on itch, and we'll get to that. But as I just kind of alluded to a second ago, people might be excited for Daisy Chainsaw. We actually did an episode on Daisy Chainsaw on Friday that's going to release tomorrow because I worked all weekend. But what's funny is before we started the show, we were talking, as we always do, about random shit. And so you guys have made a lot of mech games or mech associated games or things, and haven't really done a lot of mech anime, like read or seen a lot of mech anime or manga. Why mechs?
I love robots. Also, the reason I wanted to make Celestial Bodies is because every mech game I've played in tabletop games was not satisfactory, which is the same reason I made Daisy Chainsaw, because I couldn't find a magical girl game that I liked. So I was tinkering with Celestial Bodies like in 2021, 2022, and I never really got anywhere with it. So I was like, and then after Binary commissioned me for Valiant Horizon, I was like, oh, do you want to help me with this Celestial Bodies game? We can collab. I'll help you with this, or you help me with this, and I'll help you with something. And then it exploded, and we got hit by the Celestial Bodies bus.
Yeah, I had like 3 different works in progress that got hit by that bus, by the way. They're coming eventually. I don't know. We'll see.
It's funny because that was going to be my next question, was like, how did you guys team up? So it all kind of comes from Celestial Bodies. That's where you guys kind of started.
It was started from Valiant Horizon.
Oh, that's right.
I commissioned Charlotte for Valiant Horizon. Like, Charlotte did all of the interior art for every class in that. Go look it up. It's all bangers.
No, I've seen Valiant Horizon too. Trust me, I am a fan of all of your things, including Corpse Layers. So yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of, I think you have like one of the 4 copies of Corpse Layers that's out there that I printed. So good work. Thank you. But yeah, as far as mechs, well, first off, my personal priors is like, I mean, as a boy growing up, I love robots, of course. I mean, I studied robotics in college even. So specifically though, my priors are weird on that because my main priors are like Armored Core and Front Mission. I don't know if you know anything about Front Mission, but it's more like a Cold War game with a side of mechs. So,
that sounds cool.
It's dope, but
Yeah, because I have more of a classic mech background. Like I watched a bunch of Gundam growing up, watched Code Geass, watched Evangelion, which is mech-ish, and
as technically they're not. Well, there's metal on them.
There is metal. They are living creatures.
And people go inside them. So
yes.
It's kind of a hits all the technical does this count?
Yeah.
Yeah. Theoretically, mech, you're basically driving like angels in armor suits, but like whatever. Like spoiler alert for like a 20-year-old anime, guys. But it's
If you haven't seen Evangelion yet, well,
yeah.
that's your fault, I
That
guess.
is your fault, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. And we were talking about Gundam, obviously is too. I've not seen the one that is your favorite. I know that a lot of people's favorites. A newer one, the Witch.
Yeah,
Which
what is it?
Witch from Mercury.
I have not seen Witch from Mercury. The last one I really saw was Origin, which I thought was a fantastic retelling of like the original, with Char and Amaro and everything. I don't know why. Anyway, Gundam exists. So we were talking about mechs. And then I guess one of the other things, again, we've brought up a number of times is Daisy Chainsaw. So why a magical girl game? And like what other ones, I guess, are out there? We've only seen like one or two. Like I think there's like a like one of the Jared Sinclair hacks, like what's so great about magical girls or whatever. But I haven't seen a ton of magical girl games. So what made you want to make that?
Because I wanted to play a magical girl game, and there aren't a lot of them. I actually started it. It was kind of on accident. It was probably like 4 years ago now, during a game jam on a Discord server I'm in. Before I was like in the scene, I made the first iteration of Daisy Chainsaw in like 2 weeks, and learned Affinity on the side while I was doing it, and
Cool.
so it looked really bad, um, but that's fine. And then I worked on it kind of on and off for a few more years. I had friends help me write abilities, and I did a lot of art, and then I scrapped the art and did the art again, and then I scrapped the art and did the art again, and then I got it edited, and then I scrapped the art, and then I did the pixel art, and that was the one in the book. I probably have like 5 iterations of drawings where I was like, oh, I'll do it in this style, and then I didn't like it anymore after like a month. But I wanted to make a magical girl game because I wanted to make one of my friends run a magical girl game for me, but we didn't like any of the systems, so I was like, I have to finish this so we can run it. And I called it Daisy Chainsaw before I knew there was a band Daisy Chainsaw, and then after I named it Daisy Chainsaw, everyone kept making Lollipop Chainsaw references, so that's how I learned about Lollipop Chainsaw. Now I get those references, which is cool. Like,
oh, I thought you knew about that beforehand. Oh, that's awesome.
I didn't know about Lollipop Chainsaw until like a year after I started working on it. I was like, oh, well, that exists.
Yeah, the nice space between Lollipop Chainsaw and then Daisy Chainsaw, which like, I mean, the lead singer was like, well, at least like Courtney Love called her like one of the original Riot Girls. So I assumed that like you knew Daisy Chainsaw. That's interesting.
No, it wasn't an intentional reference. I just thought I thought Daisy Chain and then Daisy Chainsaw, and I was like, well, that's a cool name for a magical girl game. And then everyone's like, oh, there's a band called Daisy Chainsaw, and I was like, oh, well, there goes my CEO, SEO. There's my CEO.
That's pretty. That's a bunch of little happy accidents, that you found this name that's like double referential, and both
they both
like,
fit.
Yeah, they're appropriate.
It's funny because I told Hunter, I was like, did you listen to Daisy Chainsaw while you read the game? Because like it works. Like they're a bunch of Riot Girls for like the magical girl anime. So. Yeah.
No, I listened to Dungeon Synth while I read it, which is not the same vibe at all, but it's what I had in my reading games playlist. So
there you go.
I have an official Daisy Chainsaw playlist that I've never linked anywhere, but I titled it Official Daisy Chainsaw Playlist, so I can listen to it.
Is it searchable on Spotify? You just throw it on itch or something, or I guess on maybe the SPI page or something.
I'll have to find it in my pile of 100,000 playlists.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Should.
So for Daisy Chain, for magical girls, like what is your like point of reference, or like what inspired you to want to play magical girls? Like what is your past with that? Are you like purely a Sailor Moon person, or because there's like a million different series? So
it's really similar to the mech situation, where I just kind of made magical girls out of the idea of magical girls I had in my head. I didn't start watching magical girl anime until well after I was doing Celestial Bodies. I mean, I watched Sailor Moon as a kid. I don't remember anything about it. I'm trying to learn more about Sailor Moon because of unrelated stuff. I think it's cute, but I I didn't really have like I watched Madoka Magica, but that wasn't until Celestial Bodies was like released or Daisy Chainsaw was released, sorry. And so there was no real like inspiration drawn from those things. I feel like one of my favorite parts about Daisy Chainsaw is that you could make the character from Chainsaw Man in it,
Yeah.
which is not a magical girl, but at that point it is a magical girl. Like
Yeah.
you can
I
turn
mean,
into a
kind of
chainsaw
is.
guy.
Yeah, he
And so
kind of
now,
is, though.
yeah,
Try it
exactly.
hard enough. It
So
got the spirit. It's close
Yeah.
enough.
It's funny for not watching all the series how well you kind of hit the beats of what those series are about, and even like in the kind of GM guide, how like the episodes are kind of formulated, or like the overarching like narrative with enemies, or even like your use of mascots. Like, are these like things that you went and sought, or did you just inherently put these in and they fit?
I don't remember, but I
Fair.
think it's just stuff that like I knew about. Like I'm not like it's not like just because I didn't watch something doesn't mean I don't know what's
Right.
going on.
Right.
And I have friends who like magical girl stuff, like the aforementioned friend I need to make run Daisy Chainsaw for me. Um, so I just sort of, and then my editor also, Matt K, helped a lot with s- name. I think he helped name the episode season sort of
Mhm.
naming scheme there. So, but that was pretty close to what I wanted to do anyway.
Very cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting that like again you hit the nail on both mech stuff and magical girl stuff without being like deeply into either. So very good job for that.
It
Um,
came out of the primordial soup of things I've vaguely seen online.
there you go.
That
And
works
then
well.
yeah. And then speaking of mechs, so Binary Star, I know one of the early things that I saw from you, I have seen Valiant Horizon, but Apocalypse Frame, again,
Right.
getting into the mech stuff a little bit more. I guess similar-ish questions with Daisy Chain. So like why mechs? I know you talked about you were robots and you were into robotics and stuff, but like
Yes.
what made you want to go from I like robots to I made a pretty cool like illuminated by Lumen Apocalypse Frame like mech game?
Okay, so Apocalypse Frame's a weird one because everyone always says it's an Armored Core game, and I say that too. Just, I'm gonna be real with you, it's for marketing partially. I mean, it's not wrong, but that's a big unifying point. It's actually a Xenoblade X game.
Nice.
That's where it started. That was my
Okay.
document. So that is really a touch point in that sense. If you look at it from that perspective, you can see a lot of the decisions, like why there's divisions, why there's, kind of a mission structure, like why it's organized around like a central point, that kind of thing. Because I was just trying to get through that game in 2021 when I found out about Loom, and I was like, you know what? This works perfectly. Just like fucking peanut butter and jam. So let's see if I can make something out of this. This was about a year and a half into making 36th Way, which is like a big 13th age conversion, which is on my site if you care. It exists. I, I don't think it's my best work, but it's a lot of it. Um,
The other half is Celestial Bodies and like 1% other stuff.
yes. No, I think that's like 220 pages. Celestial Body is like 270 pages right now. So I think the two of those combined are probably like, I don't know, 80% of my output. But yeah, just my
I mean,
page.
Celestial Bodies just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah, and we can talk about that a bit. One thing I noticed the transition to Celestial Bodies is Apocalypse Frame is very much about like bad shit happens and it comes to you, right, to Earth and everything. And Celestial Bodies is kind of the opposite. Like bad shit happened and everyone did left.
Yes.
Was that a thought at all, or was it just like the ideas that you wanted to have were more of like either on Earth or like in space?
That's interesting. Do you want to talk about that, Charlie? I mean, Celestial Bodies is a
Um,
good idea.
so the reason I did that is because I had this idea in my head of giant like cruise ship spaceships that everyone was on, and that had giant greenhouses like right in the middle where they grew all their food and like got oxygen and stuff from these huge greenhouses that they just have floating around in space. And then it just kind of spawned from there. That's where the story started because I liked greenhouse spaceships.
There you go.
Very cool.
Nothing wrong with that.
I also like that idea. It sounds pleasant.
Yeah, like I always thought, like, what if you're in space but you get to hang out with some plants? That sounds cool.
That doesn't
I
mean.
gotta hang out with plants anywhere, man. So
Yeah, I have a snake plant. That's what I got. So celestial bodies, right? Like, we talked about it when it was itch funding a while back, and it kind of blew the fuck up. Like, I don't know if I've seen an itch project like make that much money in that short a period of time. It was like almost like Kickstarter money on itch, which is an interesting thing that happened. But tell me about how, like, obviously you guys said you got hit by the bus of celestial bodies. Like, how did it feel for that to kind of like come out and then just blow up?
So when we soft launched the itch page to make sure there were no issues with like getting rewards or whatever, and I added 50 community copies just in case anyone found it. And then we went to bed, and when I woke up, it was $1,000. We had not announced anything. There was a thread, like a dedicated thread in the official Lancer Discord that people had made to look out for the launch of celestial bodies. And that's where a lot of people bought it from, because someone spotted it like as soon as it went live and then linked it there. And then I had someone messaged me the next morning like, oh, I'm glad I had insomnia and I was able to stay up because I wanted to get the, max reward, which was $200, and it was gone by the time they woke up the next day. And I was like, oh, okay. And we had to limit that because of the amount of work, and it was still a lot of work for all the stuff we had to make.
So much work. Oh my
It
god.
was so long.
So there
half
are
of it was
41
just-
factions in the book right now. 19 of those are veteran backers, just so you know.
And half of them, half the hard part was just getting people to fill out the form so we could actually make them.
that sounds right, actually.
Cat herding, it was a lot. So I had some experience with itch funding prior. I itch funded Valiant Horizon. It made just shy of $3,000. 3,000 was a ish. I figured. So at that point, the highest itch fund was, I think, 4,300. I think that was anyone can wear the mask. Because like before this launched, I like looked up what the highest itch funds were just for my own benefit. I want to say, actually, no, the highest one was some like first Zine month thing for like 4,800. Celestial Bodies made 87 something. Like, so yeah. Right now, I think we're the #1 itch fund. Other people have surpassed that 4,800 number since, but I don't think anyone's passed us yet. How that happened is, fuck, I don't know.
We don't know. We didn't do anything.
A big thing is just I had a huge mailing list from Apocalypse Frame. And it's like, I don't have a better answer for you other than I emailed them and then our number went up.
Emailing does make numbers go up consistently.
I don't even remember where I originally saw it because I backed it day one. Like I backed it like the second it dropped, and I don't even remember where, like what link I saw to it. But as soon as I saw like the writing, even just like the font you guys chose, the art, I was like, I don't care, I'm doing this thing. And everyone else apparently did the same thing too. And that's crazy that you guys are like the highest funded like itch project ever still, and it sounds like by almost double, which is absolutely nuts.
That is pretty crazy.
Yeah. One anecdote about that. Okay, so when two people buy an itch reward at the same time and it's the last one, because this happened to us, itch just kind of shrugs and goes, okay, you can both have it.
Yes, someone bought the last $200 tier, I believe, at this within a minute of each other, so basically at the exact same time, and itch gave it to both of them. So there were only 5, and we ended up doing 6.
It's functioning just as well as we would all expect it to.
We didn't know this could happen, and we didn't know it would happen. So it was very strange. We had no idea, because like just the idea of that happening is very, very strange in general. But I was like, why does it say 6 out of 5 rewards? And I checked, and it just had them both like recently bought the same time, and I was like, oh, okay, sure, I guess.
We're not gonna
make you. We're not gonna like make you
6 out of 5.
I can imagine that that's not something that's going to come up like super often, or people to buy like a limited reward within like the same minute of each other.
Yeah, I assume they had to have both had the payment window up at the same time is how that probably happened.
Like
But
it
yeah,
was
that means they would have
processing.
had to do it within a minute.
Yeah. Well, you guys just had to do 6, which just added to the list of like the 19 other things you had to do. Because if you look at the original Celestial Bodies version, and then you look at the scopes, I have the Terrestrial edition, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you look at the Titan edition, like basically the entire middle of the book is just like factions, and there's like a huge chunk of that like I guess backer rewards from Itch.
All of it
19
except Scavengers and Infinity. We didn't make any original ones for this edition. We're going to later. Binary is frozen.
They are.
Oh, classic.
There we go. Hey, we're back. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't make any original ones. We're going to make more original ones for the Titanic Eclipse edition. There were just so many backer factions that we were like, we had to figure those out first so people could have them. And we were like, we'll just do everything later. Binary, do you have your test print of the potential
yeah.
final soft cover
You better
version?
believe it. So check this shit out.
It's
Oh,
huge.
that blur.
Blur. Put it in front of you and it'll unblur. There you go.
So we're going to do
Ooh.
a soft cover version on the Kickstarter that's cheaper than the hardcover version. But to make sure it was viable, Binary copied a bunch of pages and ordered it in black and white to see if it would like hold up by
I
itself.
just duplicated the faction section. That's all I had to do.
Yeah.
I
That's a thick boy. Was there ever any thought about potentially like just having like the book and then like a faction book?
Yes.
Yeah, but we didn't feel like it.
See, what I hate and like is if you get like half of the book and you're like, oh, I can't actually do anything with this without the other half, like the D&D like player's handbook monster manual situation where it's like, okay, I can kind of do something with this, but like not really. We want to
Factions are
hate that shit.
Factions are really important in Celestial Bodies because like the whole like mission process revolves around and progression revolves around the factions you meet. So separating them kind of means like if you lose the factions book, well, what are you going to do now?
Yeah, and all factions double it. Like the only enemies we have in there are factions right now. So
I did print all of Celestial Bodies.
I forgot about that.
For a solo game. Let me see if I can get it. Here's all of Celestial Bodies currently printed.
Nice.
And so I can play it solo. But the factions tab is huge, like a massive chunk of pages.
And that's like 8.5 by 11 too. That's not even the size of like the regular book as well.
Yeah, it's 8.5. Yeah, it's regular printer paper. I didn't adjust the zoom or anything. I wanted more margin space. Our current PDF is 6 by 9, so it wasn't too much different.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's very big. The factions are very important, which is why we have so many of them, because they're just kind of like the core. Everything revolves around the factions and who you meet.
Very cool.
We kind of dug right into Celestial Bodies without really even saying, for those that might not know what Celestial Bodies is, like what the heck is Celestial Bodies? I guess what's like the elevator pitch for the game, and then for those listening now we'll learn it.
Our community copies are any indication.
Yeah, but so what's the pitch for Celestial Bodies?
Okay, I guess I'll do it. Celestial Bodies, it's a mech tabletop game. I don't have the rest of the pitch yet. I haven't had to think about that before. My favorite part is the grid and all the grids.
Yeah.
It's a mech tabletop game. There's not a lot of like story-wise, I feel like it's not super different from a lot of other mech games. I once had someone ask me on Tumblr to sell them on it over Lancer, and I just ignored the ask because I'm like, if you need me to sell it for you, then just play Lancer. Like, I don't care. I'm not your mom, whatever.
I do have the pitch we wrote up.
Good.
There you go.
Yes, write up the pitch. Tell us.
Yeah. So in Celestial Bodies, you will play the residents of home ships that house the remnants of humanity. Specifically, you'll be playing its lamplighters, that unions of pilot and mech. Humanity is completely spread out from Earth. They're starting to arrive at the corpses of dead gods floating in space. They're starting to make mechs out of those dead gods. That's probably a bad idea. We're doing it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
that's a great pitch. Like you're like 5 generations from like Earth, deep in space, making all this mech. So the grid, obviously, I think is one of the things that a lot of people were drawn to because it's an incredible idea. Like, it's super clean, it's super neat. Don't know how it hasn't been done before because it's so cool, and it is kind of. I mean, you can see a little bit in some like video game stuff, like Stalker and things like that. Have their backpacks? You have like the grid or whatever. But talk about the grid a little bit and just how that I guess came about, where that came from, and like kind of how it works just a little bit for those that haven't seen it.
The grid was one of the original ideas I had when I made Celestial Bodies. It was the first thing I was like, I want character creation to be on a grid. This was in like 2021. I didn't have an idea of what the grid would look like. I just was like, it has to be on a grid. It can be weird shaped or whatever. I don't know. So, but that was like that plus being jamless were like the requirements for creating Celestial Bodies that I came to Binary with.
Yep. So for the grid, it's really funny because at some point I looked up our initial conversations about like what it became. And it literally was just like, hey, I want character creation on grid. Okay, what if the grid was hit locations? Okay, what if you hit a already hit place, it was a crit? All right.
Like, Binary came up with the 6x6 like base grid, which makes it really easy to roll because you can just roll 2d6 and you're fine.
So I got that general shape from this guy. Put it in front of me again. Choke by Clofu Fulminata. That's the one that made me think about like that 6x6 D66 grid shape. Choke obviously does not do the same thing, but that got me in that mindset. And like from there, that's where we went from there.
It's a really cool idea. It works really well, and it's very interesting. Going through Celestial Bodies the first time, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, it very much takes you out of the regular like nebulous hit location or whatever kind of damage. It's very pseudo battleship,
Yeah, it's abstract, but in a very like non-abstract way.
Yeah,
describing it, where it's like you don't see like legs and arms and heads like BattleTech or something, but
right.
you get a sense of like, okay, I'm hitting something. Like
also,
something
it's really fun. It's really fun to make builds because you have to make everything fit instead of just calculating how many points you have. You have to like it has to fit together.
Yes. So that was the moment I really knew we had something, is when I spent like all weekend just fucking around with builds when we made the initial like general idea. I was like, okay, no, this is something. Like we're going somewhere.
No, it's so neat because again, like it all, and that makes sense, right? Like you're fitting things on this grid, which again, if you're playing like a video game that does a similar thing with like the backpack, you have to fit it in the pack. So if a thing is shaped like this, you have to do a little thing like this. But not only that, the modules and like the bits and parts that actually make mech go also have to fit, and they have to be next to the thing that makes it work, and then armor goes on top of it, and then like the battleship hit location to like hit the thing. It's all so clever and so clean, and again, it's one of those things where like how has this not been thought of before? This is so smart. And it's I mean, again, the second I saw the grid, I was like, I'm backing the fuck out of this. I'm just going all the way. But one of the other things I really love is that most of the frames have square, rectangular, they're whatever, I can't remember all my polygons. They're a squarish shape, rectangular shape, until you get to the end where you start talking about the these guys. I'm scrolling for those that can't see the Titan frames. Yeah, that are actually, and then those are all these like weird shapes. And when you see like why the Titan frames are Titan frames and how they're different than the regular ones, then I saw that they were weird shaped. I was like, oh, this is so perfect. Like they're not like all the other ones, and you have to do this other weird thing, and there's layers of armor and stuff. So, I mean, you guys just did such a fantastic job of making it, this kind of abstract idea, feel so grounded. Again, by having the pieces have to be next to each other and stuff like that. It's, I mean, good job. That's all I can say.
We're obviously fans.
Yeah. And so we have, again, I have the Terrestrial Edition. You can get the Titan Edition now. And the next thing that's coming out is the Titan Eclipse Edition. So talk about that a little bit. Like, what is the big difference between, I guess, the three versions of the game? I know we talked about the Titan version. There's a lot more of the faction stuff in it, but what's the big difference for the newest one coming out?
So Terrestrial Edition was really just like really focused on that combat system. Like just very like the grid was the main thing with the Terrestrial Edition. It's like 60 pages long and like almost all of it is just that. Um the Titan Edition, we were really focused on like, okay, this needs to be like properly playable GMlessly. Like we really need to make this properly playable and like playable in a fun way, not just like, yeah, you can do it, but it like kind of sucks after a while. Like we want it to be like sustainably playable GMlessly. So that's where you saw a lot of the progression systems. That's where you saw a lot of the faction stuff. That's where you saw like Charlotte's incredible Mission Hexflower thing, which is
Yeah, super cool.
no, that's all Charlotte. I can't take credit for that. um, but yeah, like that's where you saw all of that kind of stuff come in. Um, and yeah, the next one is going to be emphasis on that, taking a lot of those ideas a little further, adding more content, frankly. um, that's one thing.
More Mission Hex Flowers.
We have 5 Titan frames in the tank right now that we have not put in the Titan edition. The reason is because they're attached to factions, and we had to figure out what that means. So there's a lot more stuff with factions we want to do. And there's a lot of other things too. I don't know. We're estimating it's going to be like another, I don't know, like 100, 120 more pages. I estimated this big boy at 400. So to give you some
a big book.
I have a lot of ideas because it'll be like 1 a.m. and I'll be like, Binary, we should put this in Celestial Bodies. And he's like, dear God, no. And I'm like, well, we're going to. I'm going to figure it out.
Is there any concern on like scope creep at all, where you feel like it's just gonna like get away from you, or you want to make sure that you have everything possible that you want on like, I guess, like the third iteration of this?
So there's some concerns. Over time, it's definitely been one of those things where you want to keep an eye on the size of any given feature is the big thing. I am very assiduous about this because I don't want to die making this. But aside from that, I don't know. It's a big game. Like that's enough scope. I don't think we need to worry too hard about it. I think we've already crept pretty far.
Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the game, but it's all around like the core gameplay loop of do missions, meet people, make friends, or make enemies, and then do it again. And all the stuff we've added is just contributes to that. It's not like random stuff we're adding.
Cool.
The factions take up a lot of space because we want a lot of factions. And that's like most of the page count anyway.
A lot of it's also a layout concern. The reason it takes up so much space is we have like a full page for every like build that a faction does, like including like reposted stat blocks for weapons. And the reason for that is just to make it a lot easier for you to run. You can just open to that page and you're ready to go. You don't have to reference everything. So
that makes sense.
It's not just like straight text for 280 pages. Like
Yeah.
And there's a lot of white space. We made it it's very clean.
Yes.
Which was why it was so easy to print out on my 20-year-old HP laser printer.
Yeah, you definitely, I mean, especially when you get to the frames and stuff, the pages definitely have plenty of room to breathe. It is very nice. We talked about this with Daisy Chainsaw as well, is that you did a really fantastic job of exactly that, like having nice size margin, having nice size font, where, you know, if I have like an 8.5 by 11 2-column thing that's all text, I just get lost in like the spreads and stuff. I like having the information I need for what I'm talking about like in front of me, and that's it. And you guys did Daisy Chainsaw's like that, and the Titan edition is like that too. It's very readable. And like you said, the page count, I mean, so much of it is factions. If you look at, you're at page 34 to start the factions just in the Titan edition, and it's page 164 until you're done with the faction. So there's like 130 pages of the 250-ish pages is just all factions, which again, I mean, that's, you don't need to read every single bit of that all the time. If the rules are mostly the first 34 pages and then there's like more build stuff at the end, you really do have a pretty small kind of player section in the beginning that's still nice and tight and interesting. And again, the faction section is for there when you need it and to access it. So if it's 200 pages long, you don't need all 200 all the time, so it's okay. You know what I mean? Like that's, I mean,
as far as,
as
like,
if
stuff you're going to be referencing all the time, you could probably fit it on like 4 pages. Like it's not that much.
I'm
Like
trying to
or
convince.
if you have like weird shit like missiles, but like for most builds, it's not really that much.
I'm trying to convince Binary that our dust jacket for the hardcover version should be a cheat sheet, but I still don't think he's convinced.
Oh, that'd be a great idea.
Like
That's
it?
such a good idea.
Production is the part.
Yeah.
Get a little.
well, then
The dust jackets don't
gatekeepers.
cost too much.
Yeah. It's funny, the layout overall that we've kind of been talking about with
Stretch
like
goal.
the rules being kind of like a in the beginning and the rest of it being like this useful toolbox. It very much reminds me of Fist. The game Fist, with its like the rules are very slim and they're very much at the front, and the rest is the intelligence matrix. I really do actually like that model to have like this game that's like fairly lightweight to run, but then has this like very robust like toolbox or things to add in. I think that's a really cool idea, especially for this. Like you said, it really adds to the core gameplay loop of, you know, making friends or making enemies, fighting and doing it again. You know.
Yeah, the secret is that despite being associated now with a 280-page book, mostly, I don't like huge games. I don't usually play huge trad games. Like, that's not a thing
Same.
I usually do anymore.
You're with
I've-
friends here.
Yeah.
I have played Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I'm in a Pathfinder 2nd Edition game. I played a lot of Pathfinder when I first started tabletop games. I've never read Pathfinder. I've used the websites that have the Pathfinder stuff on them.
So my Pathfinder 2nd Edition story is that disliking it was what actually made me a game designer. Because I started thinking about, 13th Age was way better than this, but I can make a fixed version of that, and that got me here.
There you go.
Through
I will
Spy
say-
Die Rose.
I will say one of the good pitches of like why Celestial Bodies over Lancer is you don't need a fucking app to play Celestial Bodies, because it's impossible to play Lancer
Okay,
without
this is
like
one
the
of my
fucking app.
Hills that I will die on. If you make a game and it needs an app, that sucks. I hate
Yeah.
it.
That's kind
You
of
can play
Claps.
Celestial Bodies on a napkin and a pencil. You just have
Yeah.
to draw some boxes and you're
Yeah,
good.
like
No.
you can just
Better.
play it on your like a normal table with printouts. It's so
Yes.
much. It's probably
Yeah.
easier to do that than to try to put it in an app.
Yeah,
Listen,
and
I have
I've
said
tried
those
to make an
exact
app for Celestial
words.
Bodies.
You don't
I've
need
tried,
to.
and
I
it's
mean,
hard.
you can. You can.
I
You can
can.
hire someone to. You don't need to, and that's great. That's the thing, is if you have it but you don't need it is very different than if you have to have it in order to play the game.
Yep.
The way
Every-
people share builds they make on Celestial Bodies in the Binary Star Games Discord server is with a code block where they use little brackets and put, a corresponding letter in the brackets, and then
Cool.
they post the key at the bottom, and that's it. It's perfect. It's so easy to share a whole mech build in one little Discord message. Nothing else is needed.
Yeah. That's
It's
nice.
such a
I
cool
love it.
build system. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'll never get over how just clever and clean and functional building in Celestial Bodies is. It's a really great idea.
And it's just, I don't know, the cleverness is, it makes me just like smile every time I see it. I'm just like, and then it's Battleship, and that makes so much sense because like if you have a grid, why not just like attack the grid? I don't know. It's just it's so unbelievably clever. And again, I think that's realistically, I think the grid system is one of the reasons it blew up the most on itch, because as soon as people saw that, they were like, holy shit, yes, this is a game I want to play. Plus that shade of pink was a very nice choice.
It's just pure
yes.
magenta.
Magenta.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know if you have seen our overlay, but it's basically the exact same color as what we use for like everything that we do. So solid choice.
Yeah, I will say the grid devlog is the only devlog I've had blow up on social media. Like that's a nuts experience because like who cares usually, but
Yeah.
Nice.
No, that's great. So the Titan edition is going to be bigger, heavier, but again, the game itself is going to be pretty streamlined. A lot of it's going to be other stuff. What, and I know you guys said you got hit by the bus from this and you have a lot of other projects on the side. What does the future look like for Celestial Bodies, and what does the future look like after Celestial Bodies for both of you?
For celestial bodies is a lot of work on celestial bodies, um, because it's going to
The
be very
Kickstarter page.
needs a lot of layout. We're doing like all these little supplements, which means that we're gonna be laying those out and releasing those.
And then the supplements, we hired some writers for to each write little zines about like what happened elsewhere on Earth
Yes.
or like specific parts of Earth that happened on and so they're writing this. We've already paid them for half of it. So
Cool.
and so we're gonna have lay out some spreads of those and then have little mock-ups for those on the Kickstarter page. Um, and they have their own mechs and stuff, builds and items. And then we also have our little zines that we have to do mock-ups for, where we have our zine of stuff, rules we wanted to add into the main book that are fun, but don't really make sense to be in the main book.
Yeah.
Like our fun little things we like. And then we have one of downtime actions that we have to do as well.
Yep. Our big ones are A, how do you play as a faction? Because like that was a question we got a lot, and like that's an interesting question to answer because some of them have a bunch of home ships and some of them have no home ships, and just like how do you thread that needle? The other one is talking about like specifically focusing on like the lamplighter pilots. Like what's their life like? You know, like what do they do between missions? Like really thinking about like that more so than like and like adding little like procedures for funsies, but like nothing that really like ties into like the main game loop in the same way.
And the answer to what lamplighters do outside of the mech is more grids.
Yep.
Perfect.
Listen,
Yeah.
you
We
can't go wrong with grids.
You'll see
with
that spread soon, but I came up with like some like two overlapping grid system for what are they doing and how does it turn out?
There you go.
Oh, cool.
the grid system for celestial bodies is partially what inspired me to look into making something similar for like mission generation because I wanted it to be, and same with the faction reputation stuff, I wanted it to be the same level of tangible. I didn't want to just like hand wave it as numbers because that felt wrong when you were tracking your character, you know, your mech on the grid. I want it to feel the same or feel similar where you can like see the progress and it affects what's going on around you, which is why I found hex flowers and was like, let's do this. Let's turn this into mission generation
That's
now.
a pretty great idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we didn't even really get deep in the hex flowers. And guess what? If you want to go back to Kickstarter and buy the book, I highly recommend still grabbing the Titan edition. But it's such a clever thing as well, just like the way that you move around, and then also the things that can happen if you like here's a faction thing, but like if you go off the edge, guess what? Now you have this other thing too. Like it's just such an interesting mechanic that also fits really well with the grid because somehow, you know, grids and hexes still really like hold hands nicely. So it all feels like super cohesive. And then post Celestial Bodies for, I know, Binary, you said you had like 3 games you were working on. Charlotte, I know you said you have Rosethorn Keep and stuff. And I know that you put out Daisy Chainsaw with Space Penguin. Is there other projects that either of you guys have that are going to come out during, before, or after Celestial Bodies that are on the horizon?
Want to go first or should I?
I'll go first. Rosethorn Keep is also going to be published through Space Penguin very soon.
Yes.
And Jarrett told me he's going to order like a bajillion copies. So I'm excited because I love Rosethorn Keep and I think it's awesome.
Yes.
And I am going to be finishing up Happy 99 around the same time we're working on Celestial Bodies because that was delayed by my job that sucked the soul out of me. I loved that job, but it also was very tiring, so I didn't do anything else. So I'm finishing up Happy 99. And I'm trying to get the actual like rules out before Celestial Bodies launches because it feels wrong to launch a Kickstarter after my Kickstarter isn't done yet. And I also am working on another Magical Girl game, but I don't know how much I'm supposed to share about it. So there's just another Magical Girl thing coming.
Cool.
Yep. So for me, one thing that Charlotte and I are probably going to both be working on is, like I said, we talked about doing a work trade at the beginning of Celestial Bodies, and this is the second half of the trade. So Anointed is a game that exists now, technically, on my itch. It's going to get completely revamped. That is going to happen at some point in the far future.
The far future, the future at some point.
Yeah, speaking of the far future, I'm also continuously working on Liminal Void. That is my space total effect game, same system as Valorant Horizon. I just released an update to the Quick Start this weekend, so that's fun. That one I'll just be working on and off during Celestial Bodies, probably.
When you hate celestial bodies and you need a break.
Yeah. I tend to bounce between like 5 projects at once, so yes. So we have that going on. I have about a third of a VN, Machination of Amorous, also on my itch page. I'm probably going to be continuing to work on that. I'm still working on Valiant Horizon Tactics, which is my rune variant. I'm continuing to work on that. I don't know. I have a few things that I am specifically not working on, specifically to not add it to the pile. So
There's like 8 things going on at once on top of Celestial Bodies that's coming to Kickstarter soon.
That works.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I got tired of working on celestial bodies, I did come up with a lot of cool ideas for Anointed, which includes more hex flowers.
No, it's sick. We're talking about doing like a combat via hex flower thing. So like,
yeah, no dice
for dance. Like
that sounds awesome.
Like
that does sound
your
awesome.
actions based on where you are on it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you just pick where you go
based on your equipment.
Yeah, you change the equipment you have changes the actions you have available on your hex flower. So there's like a base no equipment hex flower, and then different parts of it change depending on like what weapon you have, what armor you have, and maybe you can block or dodge. And you have to time your blocks and dodges with when the enemy will attack, and you kind of have to learn how the enemy attacks and when they're winding up so that you can attack and still safely block or dodge their attack with your actions on the hex flower. But using an action on the hex flower, opens up more actions, but it also limits you from only what's available around you. So that's my idea for it.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that does sound pretty cool.
Still very early, by the way.
Yeah.
Anything in that description may change, but
everything maybe. But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I described it vaguely enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it still sounds awesome. We'll definitely be keeping eyes out for that. So when is there a date for the Kickstarter launch?
March
for
4th.
Celestial Bodies? March 4th. Right after Zemo? Zine Quest?
Yeah. We didn't want to do it during.
No matter where you fall on the zine discourse, this is not a zine.
Yeah.
It is a bunch of zines stapled together.
My 400-page zine, guys. It's hardbacked. It's a zine. Yeah. But great. So March 4th for that. The link is on our overlay right now. What I have and what I wrote was binarystar.games/celestial as the short URL that'll take you to the Kickstarter. We'll make sure that link is in below. But you talked about Anointed and a bunch of stuff on your itch page. So where can people find your stuff, Binary?
Yes. So my stuff is at binary-star-games.itch.io. You can also just find it from binarystar.games. I have everything linked out from there. I have a bunch of shit on there. I make blog posts all the time there. Go to either. You'll find it.
Yeah.
Just Google me, figure it out.
What's funny is about 1 in 10 people that we have on the show actually can give like their itch address without having to look up their own address. Almost everyone's like, oh, I don't really remember what my itch is. Mine
is super easy because I made an itch account like 100 years ago. So it's just the username I use on like Discord and stuff. It's Selkie, SELKIE.itch.io.
Perfect.
Easy peasy. And then you said you had a website as well?
Yeah, fragrant.garden is the whole URL. And I posted a blog there recently explaining Mission Hex Flowers because Binary kept pestering me about it.
Yes, go read it.
You gotta write a blog. You gotta write blogs. And I was like, I don't want to, but okay, fine.
There you go. But yeah, we'll make sure that all those links are below. Listen, I'm super excited for Celestial Bodies. Again, every time a new edition has come out, I just get more excited for it. I'm excited for the brick that I'm gonna get when it comes out after March 4th.
Self-defense weapon.
Yeah, right. So it looks fantastic. Honestly, thank you guys so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. We love all of your stuff. Like I said,
Definitely.
this episode will drop this week after the Daisy Chainsaw episode, and at some point, Apocalypse Frame is on our list as well. So we're fans of both of your guys' work, and we just really appreciate you guys coming on and you know, chatting with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, absolutely.
Definitely. Thanks for coming on.
So that will be us for today, and tune in for all of this. Make sure you back the project on March 4th, and click the links below to find all that, and we will talk to you all later. Bye.
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 Bye.